technical difficulty, but it is okay because we are here with you now, and we are here with our special guest, Isiah Thomas. We are so honored to have you and to have this conversation. This is Thursday. This is day 4 of the Can Diversity Collective's Inkwell Beach Live. We couldn't be in Cannes this year, but we are here live. And I have to say, you were with us. Maybe not a lot of people know that you were one of our first sponsors of Inkwell Beach Live. So if I haven't had a chance to, or Inkwell Beach in Cannes, if I haven't had a chance to say thank you, I'm saying thank you now, and applause. You supplied us with some delicious champagne, some rosé, and that is the drink of choice in the south of France. So we will talk about that brand. I still have my sippy cup here, so everyone.
I love it.
But we will get to that because we really want to start with your journey. And, as much as you can, this is like a one-on-one, you and me having a conversation about your journey. So people watching can know, where you came from and how you got there today. I think it's going to be an inspirational conversation. I'm already inspired. So let's just start, give us your background. Where were you born? Who's your family? Do you know my mom and them? Give us that.
Well, I'm originally from the west side of Chicago. 6 brothers, 2 sisters. Mom and dad, migrated from Mississippi, and I'm currently living in New York right now. And you talked about the champagne earlier, so we have to thank my daughter Lauren for making this connection and
yes,
that we put the champagne, on display last year. And I like to say this before we get started: if you hear any dogs barking or doorbells ringing, I apologize in advance right now.
No, listen, that has happened to me. I've had 2 deliveries in the middle of me talking. The bell rings, and they won't stop until you go to the door.
Exactly.
So it's fine. This is COVID season, COVID interaction, but we got this. It's all good.
So, again, born and raised in Chicago, played for the Detroit Pistons, 13 years, lived in Detroit, went to school at Indiana, got my degree there in criminal justice, then went on and got my master's at UC Berkeley in education, and got into business in 1992. I bought a company called American Speedy Printing, took that out of bankruptcy with my partner, Rick Inatone. We turned that company around and sold it. 1994, went to Toronto. I was the co-founder of the Toronto Raptors. We started the Toronto Raptors in Toronto, and as you know, they won the NBA championship last year, so proud of that.
Not a bad investment, right?
Yeah. There were 2 international franchises that started, one in Vancouver, one in Toronto. And I'm proud to say there's only one international franchise outside the United States right now, and that's the Toronto Raptors. So Toronto survived, and Vancouver failed. Vancouver now is in Memphis, and they call that the Memphis Grizzlies. And so that kind of started my business journey, and from that I've been involved in different products, from popcorn to champagne, and now I'm in the cannabis space.
Wait, well, we have a cannabis conversation happening later on today. Maybe you have to call in at 5:30, and it's called "This Is So Dope," if you believe.
Well, I was just in Forbes magazine. An article came out yesterday. I was named vice chairman and CEO of One World Farmer, where we cultivate. Our headquarters right now are in Las Vegas, and we cultivate in Colombia. And as you know, Colombia is known for its cannabis and also its hemp. And we export all over the world right now in terms of our CBD and soon to be our THC.
Okay, so let's just unpack all of this, because you've just given me so much that we can tap into so many areas. So you You are, what people know you for most is you're a basketball player, right? They know for your skills on the court, but I don't think, you mentioned, oh, I got my degree and then I went and got my master's degree and then, I went into business, but let's like break it down a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just start there because you were born on the south side of Chicago, right?
Right, the west side.
The west side. Okay, now can we break down the difference between the south and the west? I lived in Chicago for like a year and a half. So can you tell people the difference between south side and west side? I think it's important to know.
So the west side is that part of town that people drive through and never stop. The south side is kind of, visit, live, hang out, go eat, everything else. The west side is, but we're really known for, again, our brotherhood. On the west side, we have these 5 pillars, these 5 values that we preach in terms of love, truth, peace, justice, and freedom. I grew up on the west side of Chicago. Martin Luther King, when he came to Chicago, stayed literally 4 blocks from my house. My mom marched with Martin Luther King. We were a very activist family. Activism is kind of the family business. My mom also worked with Fred Hampton. I was one of those kids that got the free breakfast program.
Wow.
And also participated in their self-defense and education classes. And
that's the Black Panthers, right?
That was the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
And, there's a street named after my mom in Chicago on Holman and Jackson. It's called Mary Thomas Way right now. And so everything that we did in terms of marching and protesting and, fighting for equal rights and civil rights, all of that, really comes from the west side of Chicago. And when you look back, at the Chicago riots, I was born in 1961. Mm-hmm. And the first 10 years of my life, there was 3 riots on the west side of Chicago. Malcolm X died in 65, was assassinated in 65. JFK was assassinated in 63. In 66, you had the Chicago riots, the first one. And then in 67, 68, we had the second and the third one in Chicago. 68, Martin Luther King was assassinated. 69, Fred Hampton was assassinated. And, that was kind of the first 10 years of my life. And, that was my birth and also indoctrination into America.
So, I mean, if you look at what's happening today, it's almost not as, there's some differences, but not quite different from what it was happening when you were growing up. So any young person growing up in this time, I think they look at the future and they question how can we survive? But obviously there was some forward focusedness, within your family, within the group that you grew up with. I hesitate to say future all the time because we don't know. So I say forward focused, and which means for me, we act now. We can have goals and aspirations, but we really have to do the action now. So within those first 10 years, had to be some amount of hope still, because look where you are now, right? Yeah. And so what advice, having grown up in that environment, or tell me, like, what did that do for you that you can give advice to some young people who are growing up in the same similar era?
Well, the main focus, and a lot of that, during those critical stages came from my mom and dad, in terms of understanding the importance of education and knowledge and miseducation. So we, I can distinctly remember my father and my mother, saying, okay, you have to pass this test at school. But this is not true about us as a people.
Wow.
This is what so Christopher Columbus discovered America. You got to get an A on that test. But let me talk to you about before Christopher Columbus got to America. and who we were before we were classified as Indian, Negro, colored, black, so forth and so on. So all those things were being taught in the house, not only in the house, they were being reinforced in the neighborhood, in the community on the west side of Chicago in terms of where I grew up. So just understanding who you were as a person and trying to live, with those 5 pillars within you, and giving love to one another, giving love to your brothers and sisters, and just truly trying to help out. I mean, we were extremely poor. There's the poverty line, and then there's the line below poverty. That was us on the west side of Chicago. But at the same time, love got you through the day. And, there were a lot of times a lot of days you didn't eat, and mom would always find a way to make some music or to make you laugh. And, books were always present in the house, so we were always reading and storytelling.
So with this foundation of storytelling and love, and it was just a commitment. One thing you brought up was sort of that miseducation part too. Yeah. That's interesting because now we talk about that's like a survival mode, right? Of covering, and how people have to act one way at home and then do something else outside of it. So your parents taught you how to play the game and how to survive, within the folds of the system versus what is reality. So you really kind of had to dumb down the brilliance of what you really knew and everything else,
Yeah, and also the combativeness that you would have in the classroom with some of your teachers, in terms of when you were talking about Moorish Americans, and when you were talking about Moors, but yet the conversation still was centered around nationality, ethnicity, and race in the Constitution and what was written in the Constitution. So having those civic lessons at home, and then we were always taught there's no such thing as a dumb question, but when you got in classrooms, sometimes they made you feel dumb for asking the question. But at the same time, having the knowledge to really stand on your square and be able to voice your beliefs and also your debate, and to counteract some of the things that you were reading, and then asking the teacher, well, this book says this and this book says this, which one is right?
Right. So I'm feeling like you had a very blessed upbringing. What could we do for young people who don't have that same environment, that same opportunity? How can we make sure that these lessons and these opportunities that you have can reach deeper into, say, off of your block on the west side? And maybe now, I think people are driving through the south side of Chicago in many ways really quickly now, because there's a lot of violence that's happening there that we hear about. What can we do to give back, save, make them think differently when they don't have that family unit, that community unit that you have?
So, it's interesting to when you say we were blessed, because growing up, we definitely weren't perceived or looked at as blessed. We were definitely the family and the people that was shunned. But we were blessed now that I'm older, with love, and also a thirst for knowledge and just curiosity, because when we didn't have food, you could bury yourself in books, or you can bury yourself in play. So what I would say to young people today, who are faced with the same below poverty levels that I was living with, is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And what my mom always said is, just I can still hear her voice now, just saying, "Baby, just get to the next day. That's all we can do. Let's just get to the next day and see what tomorrow brings." And when we were having a lot of bad days, and we had a lot of, the hope was, well, let's just see what tomorrow brings. And I can still hear her voice, and I can still hear my dad saying, let's just see what tomorrow brings. This day is over. Let's see what tomorrow brings. And you never know. You never know who you're going to meet and who's going to be there to help you. But I can say this, knowledge is available to everyone now, and it's accessible to everyone now, just with the click of a button. So going to do your research and just being curious about, because right now we're talking about systemic racism and police brutality. Well, guess what? That was the conversation in the 60s. That was the conversation in the 50s. That was the conversation in the 30s, so forth and so on. And it's still the conversation today. But I think today I am more optimistic that we have a chance to really change systemic racism and really all of us become equal and get to the point where we can really just be, where we can really get out of this color-coded caste system that has rights and privileges depending on what color you are in the caste system. And we have to call it what it truly is. It's a color-coded caste system. Where they got white, they got people of color, then they got then you got black, then you got they just changed the Redskins name, but
what is it now?
But really, it's a color-coded caste system,
right?
But it's color-coded, cloaked under race. You know, and we gotta call it what it is. And right now, there's a energy that's out in the streets universally that's speaking to eliminating this color-coded caste system that we call race that we're forced to live in here in America.
Is that a part of, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, and I heard it growing up, from my dad and mom, there was a theory or a paper or something called the Willie Lynch syndrome. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where it was essentially something ingrained that the lighter skinned blacks were better, and you had to pit the colors based on that color caste system that you're talking about. Essentially, pit the light skin against the dark skin, like make them one feel better than the other one. So I think it's all a part of that system that has been, I guess, ingrained in us for a while. And even, I remember I went to an all-girls school in Atlanta, Spelman College, and they talked about in the early days of having that brown bag test, or no, the blue vein test, that if you could see the person's veins, if you could see the blue vein, and they could get into a certain club or a certain organization. But if you couldn't, then you were eliminated, you didn't have that chance. So it's real for sure. And you're absolutely right. We have to get rid of that within, I think, our own communities and culture. We have to get rid of that color caste.
100%. And we all have to forgive each other, because we have all been miseducated in this system. The system, and that's why I'm so happy to hear that we're using the word systemic racism, the compound word in terms of putting it together, because when you just say racism, that can go in a lot of different directions. But when you say systemic racism, now we get to critique the system. And now when we get to critique the system, we also get to critique the government, because a lot of what we go through in this color-coded caste system is baked into the government, corporations, education, housing, and so on. So So critiquing the system and now getting away from the color-coded system, that there really is a status system, a status color-coded system. Because you talked about the blue vein, okay, well, then we saying that the white is the VIP status in America in terms of privilege.
Right.
We have to get to the point where there is no VIP status. We're all are VIPs, and we all can compete equally and play on a level playing field.
Absolutely. I mean, we can take this part of the conversation and extend it. It could be our own talk, right? But what it did for me, though, it provided a foundation as we talk about the conversation of brand building, because that's what we're talking about, brand building. But it did give foundation about the stability of what built your brand, love, education, just having that strong mindset of discovery and a strong mindset about being excellent and being curious and knowing more. So that's a foundation of building your brand. So we tied it together. I know how to do that. We could do.
Well, I would just say this in terms of building, in keyword building your brand, right? Your brand has to resonate with what you stand for personally, in terms of your values, in terms of being authentic. And when you and I talk about Shirlan Champagne, the first thing we talked about was the farmers and the growers who are authentic to growing champagne and their relationship with the sun and the soil, and not adding sugar to the champagne, but having a champagne that is low in sugar or zero sugar. And instead of using four grapes, we only use 3. We use the Pinot Blanc, the Pinot Noir, and the Chardonnay grape. But all the values of love that goes into making that champagne is put right into the bottle. So when you taste it, it's like you're getting that experience for the first time. And that just comes from you personally.
No, I love it when it has a purpose and it has a foundation of love of your own personal values. You're absolutely right. It shows. And with that brand, you can taste it. I know personally, I can experience that. Okay, a lot of people want to know, we got the foundation, and then you had this interest in playing, basketball, which seems really trivial at this point after everything else that we've done. But you built a brand as an athlete, as a leader on a team. And we brought up some issues of systems and caste systems. Did you find that these caste systems, or what was sort of the standard or the delineations between players within that sports arena? Like, was it the same, or what was the battle there? How about that?
So our championship teams, I played for the Detroit Pistons, and we were nicknamed the Bad Boys.
Yes.
But when you look at our team, we truly was a well-functioning team of 12 men that wasn't afraid to say, "I love you," and wasn't afraid to give each other a hug and say, "Brother, are you all right?" And from that love and that trust, we were able to now go out and execute a game plan in terms of committing to a goal.
You were loving bad boys. Okay, but
we were. I mean, if you go back, well, we played a physical style, which everyone else did also, but at the same time, the relationships that we had from a bonding standpoint, that's what makes you a great team. That's what makes you champions. That's what makes you, and being the captain of the team, the group has to trust you. They have to trust your inner being, your inner soul, who you are as a person, and what you stand for in terms of your righteousness. And that's what made us good as a team. We didn't have the best talent, but we definitely had the best team. And I think that's what people bonded around and gathered around, is in terms of the way we interacted with each other and the way we felt about each other, and then the way that we were able to play the game out on the floor.
Right. So you were the leader. What was your leadership style? If you were the, the team captain, if you will, that made people follow that your lead and, play with love. I mean, that's a big feat to get everybody to buy into that concept. How did you manage to do that?
When you look at basketball and you look at the players and we say we love this game, right?
Yeah.
It's not a throwaway phrase. And what I tried to do was take that phrase and make it come to life as a leader. And sometimes you have to be compassionate in terms of your leadership style. And then sometimes you may have to be a little stern or a little forceful. But I always looked at myself as a compassionate leader first, which allowed me to have the sternness that I needed to back up what needed to be done or what needed to be said. But most importantly, you have to have the trust of the group. If the group doesn't trust you, then they're not going to let you lead them. And I never went into a situation saying that I'm the leader. I was always elected to be the captain. And it was only because the players trusted that I would be about the right thing and try to do the right thing.
So we build on the conversation of leadership, and there are a lot of leaders within, the industry that I'm in, advertising and marketing. And I think, globally, whatever industry it is, because of COVID-19, because of the racial tension that's happening right now, a lot of leaders in these organizations are trying to figure out what to do, how to lead their organizations, how to pull everything back together. They want to know, how should we react? What should we do now? How can we keep the chill, if you will, down? What advice would you give to these leaders of these, multi-billion-dollar organizations that are struggling right now?
I would say this is one of the best times to be alive in America, because this is an opportune time to change America forever.
Yes.
Forever.
Yes.
And you, as a leader of a corporation right now, you have a chance and an opportunity to level set the table, to really speak to equality, and everybody take off their color-coded shirt,
yes,
and put on your American shirt, because we all want to be Americans. The people who have been classified as colored and black in this America, we are fighting for equal rights. We're fighting for civil rights. We're fighting for voting rights. So what that tells you is that those who have the white status, in terms of the white coat on, that they've never had to fight for equal rights. They've never had to fight for voting rights. They've never, it was a birthright.
yes.
And what we want as Americans is to give us back our birthright in terms of who we are as a people, and where we all are equal. So corporate leaders right now who could really be in charge and really, reimagine what America can be instead of what it was, I think this is a beautiful time to be alive and to spread that message.
So and I think leadership takes different roles, and I hear echo, if our people can help with my echo. Leadership takes different people can take leadership at different points, I think. And right now it seems like a lot of people in the Black community are having to take a leadership role in terms of educating white people on what to do and how to do it. And some Black people, and sometimes I get tired. It's just like, do I have to tell you what to do, how to treat me? What would you say now to the Black people, in this time and space? I love that you said it's time to level set. You're absolutely right. And, one of the sayings I also say is, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? So this is our time to like step in and make some magic happen. If any time, let's be optimistic. But what would you say to us, in order to take advantage of this crisis right now?
You have someone who is asking you to teach, right? And to educate the miseducated. And you got two options. You can either let that person stay miseducated about you, or you can educate that person about you. And not necessarily educate them about our pain and our struggle, but educate them on why this system has oppressed us simply because we have more melanin in our skin than the other person. And again, once we get to just dealing with the color-coded caste system, then all of it falls away pretty quickly. But then now, what do we do after that? How do we change the government? How do we change the rules that we are having to be educated on? Housing, employment. How do we level set and get to an America where we all are truly Americans and not, yellow, black, white, green, blue, and purple?
Yeah, I could not agree more. So, okay, we're moving through the journey. We tapped on, and I'm just following the lead of what I'm supposed to do to get us to where we're going with the brand building. But I love our stories in between. We're weaving this story together. So how did we get from talking about keeping the brand integrity together of Isiah Thomas? You proved yourself to be a leader on the court. You led with love. You led with, compassion, and allowed people to be their authentic selves so you could win as a team. I love that. You could fight and you could come back and love. You were the bad boys. But when you leave this world of basketball and you have this image of Isiah was on that winning team, but he was a bad boy. How do you shift the narrative from being a bad boy to a businessman, to be a respected businessman? How did you change that to get into the next phase of your life?
Well, through your personhood and also, being a champion and winning is extremely difficult at any level. And, having won in high school and college and then in the NBA, there are certain things that come along with winning. From a leadership standpoint, again, by the trust from the group that you get, and then your hard work and your work ethic from a skill standpoint. Now, how do those things transfer into business? Well, when you go into business, the first thing you got to do is what's our goal? What's our vision? What are we playing for? Right? Just like in basketball, we're trying to win the championship. But the company that you're starting, and my business expertise is in startups and turnarounds. So the company that you're starting, what's the goal? Do we want to be the best? Do we want to be second? What's our vision? Who are we going to be, and what are we going to stand for? And then how you're going to move this product and sell this product. So transferring from the basketball floor and into business, it wasn't very difficult for me because remember, I had started business while I was in the NBA. I was the first NBA player to be on the cover of Forbes magazine in 1992.
Wow.
My acquisition of American Speed Printing.
I love it. One of the things that I heard with that, relationships, building relationships, that's critical. And I think, if we were to have the conversation with some of the athletes today, the ones that are signing on in these $1 million contracts, but then after their career, they're broke, right? And how we allowing them to, I guess, the lessons that they need to learn about some lessons that you had, some things that you did, build your relationships, make sure people are knowing who you are outside of the basketball player. They know Isiah, the man. I think that's always critical. And that's one of the things I tell young people to if they know Adrian outside of the company that I work for, or they know Isiah outside of that, and they respect the work, and that was the other part you mentioned, the skill set, the work, if those are good and people respect those, then the transitions are made easier. And I think that's a great lesson for any of these athletes or anybody who's making transitions. The relationships are critical. Your human capital is everything. That brand,
Everything.
it's everything. So, okay, we're
Yeah,
on. Go ahead. No, go. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, yeah, your personhood in terms of who you put forth, that is your brand. Yes. And that's it, you know, and you know, how you carry yourself in the world and how you walk in the world, as a loving, compassionate, giving spirit, but also, you know, can fight too. That don't mean that you're looking for a fight,
right?
But you do have the backbone to fight. But that's not your first. That's not the first thing you put forth. So having the duality of that, I think, has helped me tremendously.
I think one of the funny things some of our team members talk about, you know, we always say, don't forget to play nice in the sandbox, right? But I would always say, yeah, I'll play nice in the sandbox, but I have box in my pocket just in case, you know, like we're not playing, you know, like we can get along, but don't get it twisted. So I love that you have reinforced my theory on how to play nice in the sandbox.
Absolutely.
So you've been on Forbes, the cover of Forbes, but you're still going. Like, you kept building businesses. You named, like, you know, 10 more brands that you want to build, that you want, you know, or that you've been involved with, and they all have been successful. What is that motivating factor? Why don't you say, I'm good? I was on the cover of Forbes magazine. I'm done. My family's okay. What next? I mean, what's the driving force?
I am, you know, just a thirst for knowledge, you know, and I am a forever learner. I want to learn as much as I possibly can, and you know, just roll up my sleeves and try to learn every industry and try to be successful in those industries. So, you know, having a thirst for knowledge and having a curious mind has always been a blessing. Sometimes it's a curse, but, you know, there's always the yin and yang of every situation. So, you know, I enjoy just learning. So you know, when will I stop? You know, no time soon.
As long as we can breathe, I think that is kind of the thing. I always say I'm not going to buy into wearing the T-shirts or the hats that say I can't breathe. As you know, I know it's a cry to support those that we've lost, but we still have to fight for them. We still, and as long as we have, you know, breath and air in our lungs, we have to speak life. You know, speak life into ourselves, speak life into the people around us, to say, I can breathe and I will breathe until I can't anymore. And I will act, I will do, I will build, I will create, I will learn, I will educate myself and others, because I'm here and I'm still living. And I think that's the best way we can honor those that we've lost in this journey. What would you say, and someone asked the question, that you are in this incredible journey you've had of building your business, building brand. First, before I get to that question, any tips? We're going to lose some time. We lost a little time. Any tips to the success of building the business now? You have the brand, that's critical, but what does it take to build the business, whatever it is, that young people watching would want to know? What are some of those good steps?
The first thing I would say is you have to find a good product. And it's not a product that you like. It's got to be a product that the public likes. Because you may like it, but the public may not like it. So you have to find a good product that the public likes, that maybe a lot of people haven't been exposed to it yet. And once you find that product, then you got to be able to put a business plan behind it, okay? And that business plan means, how am I going to expose this product to other people? And by the way, when I expose it to other people, how much can I sell it to them for, and how much will they pay for it? Now, you may want to sell it for $5, but they may only pay. The public may only want to pay $2. So
Right.
you got to find the balance, and then after that, again, how do you let people know about it? And that comes into marketing, word of mouth, and I mentioned word of mouth because that is the best marketing tool that I have come across ever. Is when you got a good product and you let somebody else try it, and he or she tells somebody else, and that other person tells somebody else. The best marketing tool that you can get is when people are talking about your product without you having to buy advertising time or anything else, because the product really stands for itself and itself.
Yeah, I love that. That question was from a 16-year-old in California who's a basketball player who wants to be an entrepreneur. That's Alexander Quick, my godson, wanted to know. He's like, ask that question for me. So that was for Alexander. In this time, how are you, we're in COVID season, everybody's been on shutdown. How are you surviving? How is the business going? What are the tips that you can say that keeps the brand alive, keeps the business going during this, time of shutdown? Have you found that it's affected your business anyway, or are you still able to keep moving?
Well, it definitely has affected our business. But I'm one of those people who look at COVID as a challenge. And the challenge that we took on as a company was to be one of the businesses that survived in COVID, and then be able to come out and tell our story of how we survived through COVID, how we survived through a pandemic, and what ways did we have to change our game plan to survive. So we started out in retail, but when they shut down the stores, then we had to go to virtual. So going to virtual, and everybody being, living in a virtual society right now, where you're buying your shopping, you're doing your meetings, you're having the Inkwell, cons, live, so forth. Everybody is, sheltering in place, so to speak. So how do you get product? And so reinventing yourself as a company, but taking it on as a challenge, like, hey, let's see what we can do here. It's like, okay. And the thing that I found, particularly in the champagne space, is that while spirits were on the rise in terms of wines and the champagne was on the decline. And I was like, wait a minute now, because people weren't in a feel-good mood.
Right.
Okay. And what we had to do was let people know that, hey, your go-to can be champagne, and it can be Shirlan champagne, because it's A, B, C, D, and E in terms of it's good for you. You get that uplifting feeling. You don't have the hangover that some of the other stuff gets you. It's affordable. So we had to recraft our message and put it online, and therefore we were able to survive and get more customers. So that in itself was a challenge. We survived that, and then in COVID, I was named vice chairman and CEO of One World Farmer. Again, a cannabis.
Yes, let's get into the cannabis, but yes, let's talk about that.
So and having that experience of again, just being able to know the ins and outs of starting a company and moving it to the next level. The trust that was placed in me as a publicly traded company, being the first Moorish American, African American, Black, colored person to be, running a publicly traded cannabis company on the stock exchange was quite an honor. Now, how do you meet your employees, and how do you motivate them through COVID over Zoom?
Right.
So that has been a unique challenge for us. But again, you're working through it. I haven't been able to get down to Colombia yet because of the travel. But once that happens, we'll definitely be able to communicate with each other. So
Let
it's
me-
a very unique opportunity in the cannabis space.
As it relates to cannabis, and I think this is more of a kind of a general question about, the cannabis industry, and, I guess on the streets, the weed industry, and, all of the aspects and, versions of what it would be. A lot of Black people have been criminalized for this cannabis, having a tiny bit of, or weed or something, some form of that on them. But now it's become an industry that the wealthy are finding a way to benefit from it, where historically, our community has been criminalized.
Yeah.
What is your take on that, and how can we, I have various theories of what we can do and how we can, give back to those who were punished for being in this business before it was a business per se. And maybe it was just how they were using, I don't know. But how do you feel about that, and what can we do to almost, I don't know, rectify that situation, or give back to those who lost so much because of the cannabis business?
Yeah, well, two things. Definitely the criminalization of the plant that went along with the criminalization of us as a people here in this union of states we call America. All criminalization with the plant, and then the incarceration of us. Historically, when we look back on it, we see how wrong it was, and we see how dirty it was.
Mm-hmm.
But the blame squarely rests on the government. And all fight in this country has always been with the government in terms of their legalization or illegalization of different knobs on the system in terms of how they can turn it and switch it to affect us. So hopefully, as people start to be released from prison, there will be some way that we can participate collectively as a group in this emergent and growing space, in this emergent business, and not be systemically eliminated from the legality of it. So you welcomed us when it was illegal, but now that it's legal, we want the same welcome and mat laid out in our communities.
Right. And without the big price tag that's attached to getting into the business. It's a heavy price tag. So finding ways to get into the cannabis industry right now is if you don't have, it's almost like cut out. And we have run out of time.
Already?
Yes, we have run out of time. We have to get you to come back. We have to do more conversations like this and share with everybody. But I cannot tell you how much I value this conversation. I feel like it was just you and I, well, kind of you and I just talking, but I know it was the benefit for the larger audience that are watching now and that will be watching when we run this again. But thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you so much for the energy and enlightenment that you shared. I understand why your brand is your brand now. And I am still, yes, I will advertise for the champagne brand. That is why we accidentally both are wearing red, by the way. So, but I think it all fits into the marketing. We'd love to know more about your cannabis business so we can promote, and share everything we can about that as well. You're invited, of course, to Cannes in 2021 to be a part of our conversation when we will be in the south of France. I'm claiming that now. But this has been great. So thank you so much, Isiah Thomas. We value you. We honor you. You are one of our heroes in our community. So I appreciate that. We're going to move on to our next session, which actually starts at 11:15. Maybe you want to stay and watch outside. It's the connection, or the continent connection. We're connecting with the continent. We're talking about partnerships and opportunities that we might have in Africa. So definitely listen in. Come at 11:15. We have a full day and another day of programming tomorrow. This has been the Can Diversity Collective's Inkwell Beach Live with Isiah Thomas. Thank you, Isiah, and we will see you guys in the next session.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.